Hello there, and welcome. I am so glad you have found this quiet space to unwind. There is nothing left for you to do today, nothing to solve or figure out. Simply settle into a position that feels comfortable and effortless. Allow the gentle weight of your body to be held. Let your breath find its own easy rhythm, slowing down without any need for control. Tonight, we will drift through the gentle science of circadian rhythms. These are the quiet, internal clocks that tick away inside nearly every living thing, guiding the ebb and flow of life in a steady 24-hour cycle. You do not need to follow every word. The mind can idle and the body can rest. If you drift away, the thread will be here for you, soft and simple, whenever you return. Let's begin our calm journey into the quiet pulse of life. The term circadian comes from the Latin word circadium, which means about a day. This name perfectly captures the nature of these internal rhythms. They're not exactly 24 hours long, but very close to it. In humans, the natural, free-running cycle of our internal clock averages just a little longer than 24 hours. It is the daily cues from the outside world, like the rising and setting of the sun, that gently adjust this internal timing each day. This process keeps our bodies synchronized with the rotation of the earth, aligning our internal world with the external one. Without these cues, our sense of a day would slowly begin to drift. As you rest, this internal clock continues its steady repeating pattern. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. Nearly every living thing on Earth has a circadian rhythm. This includes animals, plants, fungi, and even some types of bacteria. These biological clocks evolved as a way to anticipate and prepare for the predictable changes in the environment caused by the Earth's rotation. For a plant, this means knowing when to open its leaves to catch the morning sun. For a nocturnal animal, it means knowing when to wake and begin its search for food as darkness falls. These rhythms provide a profound advantage, allowing life to optimize its activities for the right time of day or night. It is a universal feature of life, a deep, ancient connection to the spinning of our world. Let the thoughts soften at the edges and fade. At the heart of your circadian rhythm is a master clock located deep within your brain. This structure is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. It is a tiny cluster of about 20,000 nerve cells located in a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, right above the point where the optic nerves cross. Despite its small size, the SCN acts as the body's primary timekeeper. It receives direct information about light from your eyes and uses this signal to coordinate the timing of countless functions throughout your entire body. In this way, this small group of cells acts like the conductor of a vast orchestra, ensuring all the different parts of your body are working in harmony. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. One of the first clues to the existence of an internal clock came from an experiment in the year 1729. A French scientist named Jean-Jacques Dortouz de Meuron noticed that his heliotrope plant opened its leaves during the day and closed them at night. He wondered if the plant was simply reacting to sunlight. To test this, he placed the plant in a completely dark room. To his surprise, the plant continued to open and close its leaves on the same daily cycle, even without the cue of light. This suggested that the rhythm was not just a reaction, but something generated from within the plant itself. With unhurried steps, science began to uncover the internal nature of timekeeping. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. The primary cue that resets our master clock each day is light. The SCN is uniquely positioned to receive signals directly from the eyes. Special cells in the retina, which are separate from the ones we use for vision, detect the ambient brightness of our surroundings. They are particularly sensitive to blue light, the kind that is abundant in natural daylight. When these cells sense morning light, they send a powerful signal to the SCN. This signal essentially tells the master clock that the day has begun and it is time to reset. This daily synchronization is what prevents our internal 24-hour cycle from drifting out of sync with the actual day. Under quiet skies, our bodies align with the sun. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. The molecular basis of the circadian clock is an elegant feedback loop involving specific genes and proteins. Inside each cell of the SCN, a set of clock genes with names like PER and CRY are turned on. These genes produce proteins that slowly build up inside the cell over the course of the day. As the concentration of these clock proteins rises, they eventually reach a level where they turn off the very genes that made them. With the genes switched off, the protein levels begin to fall overnight. Once they are low enough, the genes are released from their suppression and can turn on again, starting the entire cycle anew. This process takes roughly 24 hours to complete. In a calm rhythm, the cells keep time. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. While the SCN is the master clock, it is not the only clock in your body. In fact, scientists have discovered that nearly every organ and tissue has its own local circadian clock. Your liver, your stomach, your muscles, and even your skin have internal timekeepers that regulate their specific functions. These are known as peripheral clocks. For example, the clock in your liver helps manage the release of glucose and the metabolism of toxins according to a daily schedule. These clocks are all synchronized by the SCN, which sends out timing signals to hormones and the nervous system. This ensures that your entire body operates on a cohesive schedule. Elsewhere in this picture, a quiet harmony exists. One of the most well-known outputs of the circadian system is the hormone melatonin. As darkness falls in the evening, the SCN sends a signal to a small gland in the brain called the pineal gland. This prompts the pineal gland to begin producing and releasing melatonin into the bloodstream. Melatonin does not force you to sleep, but it acts as a signal of darkness, gently encouraging the body to prepare for rest. It helps lower body temperature and reduce alertness, creating the ideal conditions for sleep to begin. As morning light appears, the signal to the pineal gland is shut off and melatonin production stops, helping you to wake up. With simple patience, the body follows these gentle hormonal cues. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. In contrast to melatonin, hormone cortisol follows an opposite rhythm. Cortisol is often associated with stress, but it also plays a vital role in waking you up and promoting alertness. Its levels are naturally lowest in the middle of the night and begin to rise in the early morning hours, typically reaching a peak shortly after you wake up. This morning surge of cortisol helps to mobilize energy stores, increase blood sugar, and activate the body for the day ahead. Throughout the day, cortisol levels gradually decline, reaching their lowest point again around midnight, which allows the body to rest and repair. Through a soft lens, we can see this daily hormonal tide. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. Your core body temperature also follows a distinct circadian rhythm. It is not static throughout the day and night, but fluctuates in a predictable pattern. Your temperature is usually at its lowest point in the very early morning, about 2 hours before you naturally wake up. After this low point, it begins to rise, helping to promote wakefulness and alertness. It generally peaks in the late afternoon or early evening. As bedtime approaches, your core body temperature starts to fall again. This small drop in temperature is a key signal that helps to initiate sleep. This is why a warm bath before bed can sometimes help, as the subsequent cooling of the body mimics this natural process. With steady breath, the body prepares itself for rest. Feel the calm gather around you again. Our mental performance and alertness are not constant throughout the day. They too are governed by circadian rhythms. For most people, cognitive abilities like focus, memory, and reaction time tend to peak in the late morning and again in the early evening. In contrast, there is often a natural dip in alertness in the early afternoon, sometimes called the post-lunch dip. This period of grogginess is not just caused by eating a heavy meal. It is a programmed part of the circadian cycle of arousal. Understanding these natural peaks and troughs can help explain why you might feel more productive at certain times of the day than others. As the night settles, the need for alertness fades away. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. Not everyone's internal clock is timed in exactly the same way. These individual variations in circadian timing are known as chronotypes. You might have heard people described as morning larks or night owls. A morning person or lark has a clock that runs a bit earlier. They naturally feel sleepy earlier in the evening and wake up early in the morning, feeling most alert at the start of the day. A night owl has a clock that runs later. They struggle to fall asleep early and prefer to wake up later, often feeling their best in the afternoon or evening. These differences are largely determined by genetics, and they are a normal part of human variation. Along a steady path, each body finds its own rhythm. Settle back into the soft pace at night. The clock in your liver is a powerful example of a peripheral timekeeper. It is responsible for controlling the metabolism of sugars, fats, and proteins on a daily cycle. During the day, when you are typically eating, the liver clock prepares the body to use and store energy efficiently. At night, during the fasting period, it switches to a different mode, releasing stored glucose to keep your brain and body fueled while you sleep. Interestingly, while the liver clock is synchronized by the SCN, it is also highly sensitive to when you eat. Eating at unusual times, especially late at night, can confuse this clock, sending it conflicting signals. In this way, the timing of meals can be as important as what you eat. Feel the simple ease of being here. The concept of timing your food intake to align with your circadian rhythms is known as chrononutrition. Research suggests that the body's ability to process food changes throughout the day. Our metabolism is generally more efficient in the morning and afternoon, when our bodies are programmed to be active and using energy. In the evening, as the body prepares for rest, our insulin sensitivity tends to decrease, making it harder to manage blood sugar effectively. This is why some evidence suggests that consuming the majority of your calories earlier in the day may be beneficial for metabolic health. It is a gentle way of working with your body's natural rhythms rather than against them. Let that idea rest for a moment before we move on. Your skin has its own circadian rhythm, which governs processes like cell repair, hydration, and even hair growth. During the day, the skin's clock prioritizes protection. It ramps up the production of antioxidants to defend against damage from ultraviolet radiation from the sun. At night, the focus shifts to repair and regeneration. Cell division and DNA repair processes are most active while you sleep, working to mend the damage accumulated during the day. Skin is also more permeable at night, which means it loses more water but can also absorb substances more readily. It is a quietly functioning system, always working in the background. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. The eyes contain a special type of light-sensitive cell that is crucial for circadian rhythms. Discovered only recently, these cells are called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or IPRGCs. Unlike the rods and cones that we use for seeing shapes and colors, the primary job of IPRGCs is to detect the overall brightness of ambient light. They send this information directly to the SCN, the master clock. These cells are most sensitive to light in the blue part of the spectrum. This is why exposure to blue-rich light from screens and artificial lighting in the evening can so powerfully suppress melatonin and delay sleep. Beneath the surface, our eyes are doing more than just seeing. Let the thought soften at the edges and fade. The term Zeitgeber is German for time giver. It refers to any external cue that helps to synchronize an organism's internal clock with the environment. Light is the most powerful Zeitgeber for most species, including humans. However, there are other cues that can influence our circadian rhythms. These include the timing of meals, social interaction, physical activity, and even temperature changes. For example, exercising in the morning can help to advance your clock, making you feel sleepy earlier. Consistently eating your meals at the same time each day can also help to reinforce a stable rhythm. In the gentle background, these cues help to anchor our internal time. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. Animals that are active during the day, like humans, squirrels, and many birds, are known as diurnal. Their circadian clocks are programmed to promote wakefulness and activity during daylight hours and rest during the night. In contrast, nocturnal animals such as owls, bats, and hamsters have clocks that operate on the opposite schedule. They are driven to be active at night and to sleep during the day. Interestingly, the underlying molecular clockwork in both diurnal and nocturnal animals is very similar. The difference lies in how the brain interprets the signals from the clock, turning the same internal tick-tock into opposite patterns of behavior. With the same easy pace, nature finds different solutions. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. Some animals are most active during the twilight hours of dawn and dusk. These creatures are known as crepuscular. Examples include rabbits, deer, and some species of insects. This pattern of activity allows them to avoid the predators that are most active in broad daylight or the dead of night. It also helps them to conserve energy by avoiding the heat of midday or the cold of midnight. Their circadian rhythms are finely tuned to produce two peaks of activity around sunrise and sunset. This demonstrates the remarkable way that internal clocks can be adapted to suit a specific ecological niche, providing a safe window of time for foraging and movement. In quieter hours, a different kind of life emerges. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. The phenomenon of jet lag is a clear example of what happens when our internal clock becomes desynchronized from the external environment. When you travel rapidly across multiple time zones, your SCN remains on the schedule of your original location. Your body is telling you it is one time, while the light-dark cycle of your new location is telling you it is another. This mismatch leads to symptoms like fatigue, digestive issues, and difficulty sleeping. It can take several days for your master clock to gradually shift and realign with the new time zone, typically at a rate of about 1 hour per day. Over time, the body gently finds its new rhythm. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. Plants also display clear circadian rhythms in their movements, a phenomenon known as nyctinasty. The leaves of many plants, like the prayer plant or certain types of beans, change position between day and night. During the day, the leaves are held out horizontally to maximize their exposure to sunlight for photosynthesis. At night, they fold up or droop downwards. This movement is controlled by an internal clock and occurs even if the plant is kept in constant darkness. Scientists believe these nightly movements may help the plant conserve water, deter nocturnal herbivores, or better regulate its temperature. It is a slow, silent dance time to an ancient internal pulse. Return to the easy rhythm of your breath. Even fungi have circadian clocks. For example, the common bread mold, Neurospora crassa, has a well-studied rhythm that governs the release of its spores. It produces spores in a cycle that lasts about 22 hours. It creates a band of spores each day, and these bands can be seen as visible rings, much like the growth rings of a tree, creating a physical record of the passing days. Scientists have used this organism extensively to study the molecular machinery of circadian clocks because of its simplicity and the clear visibility of its rhythm. This humble mold has been instrumental in helping us understand the fundamental clock genes that are shared across many different species. Through a soft lens, the universal patterns of life become clear. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. Our digestive system operates on a strong circadian schedule. The gut has its own internal clock system that regulates functions like the production of digestive enzymes, the absorption of nutrients, and the movement of food through the intestines. These processes are most efficient during the day when we are most likely to be eating. At night, the gut slows down significantly, entering a state of rest and repair. This is another reason why eating large meals late at night can sometimes lead to discomfort or indigestion. The digestive system is simply not prepared to handle a heavy workload at that time. As you rest, your entire digestive system is in a state of quiet renewal. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. The strength of your grip and the coordination of your muscles also follow a circadian pattern. For most people, physical strength tends to peak in the late afternoon. This is a time when core body temperature is high and nerve conduction velocity is at its fastest, allowing for powerful and efficient muscle contractions. Professional athletes and their trainers are often aware of these rhythms, sometimes scheduling competitions or intense training sessions to coincide with these natural peaks in performance. The body has its own innate schedule for peak physical output, a time when it is primed for action. Without any hurry, we can observe these gentle waves of strength and ease. Feel the calm gather around you again. The process of DNA repair inside your cells is not constant, but is timed by the circadian clock. Studies have shown that the cellular machinery responsible for finding and fixing errors in DNA is most active during the night. This makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. During the day, exposure to sunlight and its ultraviolet rays is a major source of DNA damage. The clock appears to schedule the most intensive repair work for the nighttime, when the threat of new damage is lowest and the body has more resources to dedicate to maintenance. It is a deeply protective rhythm, working to preserve the integrity of your cells while you sleep. On a deeper level, your body is always maintaining itself. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. Not all biological rhythms are circadian. Some cycles are shorter than 24 hours and are known as ultradian rhythms. A prominent example is the cycle of sleep stages. As you sleep, you cycle through different phases of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Each full cycle lasts about 90 minutes and repeats several times throughout the night. Other examples of ultradian rhythms include cycles of alertness and restfulness during the day, as well as the rhythmic release of certain hormones. These shorter cycles are nested within the larger 24-hour circadian framework, creating a complex and layered temporal structure in our biology. As the pattern repeats, layers of rhythm unfold, settle back into the soft pace of night. In addition to ultradian rhythms, there are also infradian rhythms, which are cycles that last longer than 24 hours. The most well-known example in humans is the monthly menstrual cycle. Other infradian rhythms can be seen in seasonal changes in mood, metabolism, and immune function. In the animal kingdom, examples are even more dramatic, including annual migration patterns and cycles of hibernation. These longer rhythms are often synchronized by environmental cues other than the daily light-dark cycle, such as changes in day length, temperature, or food availability across the seasons. With simple patience, life attunes itself to cycles both short and long. Feel the simple ease of being here. Social jet lag describes the mismatch between our biological clock and our social clock, particularly on weekends. Many people have a work or school schedule that forces them to wake up earlier than their internal clock would prefer during the week. On weekends, they tend to sleep in later, trying to catch up on sleep. This shift in sleep timing, even by just an hour or two, is like giving yourself a mild case of jet lag every weekend. Your body clock is constantly being pushed and pulled between two different schedules. Research suggests that chronic social jet lag can be associated with various health issues, illustrating the importance of a consistent daily routine. Under quiet skies, consistency brings a sense of ease. Let that idea rest for a moment before we move on. The opening and closing of flowers is another beautiful example of a plant's circadian rhythm. Many flowers, like morning glories or tulips, open their petals at a specific time of day to attract pollinators. Once their window for pollination has passed, or as light levels fall, they close up to protect their reproductive parts and conserve energy. This timing is so precise that the famous botanist Carl Linnaeus once proposed a flower clock. He suggested that one could tell the time of day simply by observing which species of flowers were open and which were closed in a carefully planted garden. It is a living clock, painted with the colors of the garden. In this quiet corner, nature keeps its own time. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. The immune system has a powerful circadian rhythm. The production and activity of various immune cells fluctuate predictably over the 24-hour day. Generally, the inflammatory response is heightened during the night. This may be an adaptation to help the body fight off infections while it is at rest. It could also explain why symptoms of some inflammatory conditions, like arthritis, can feel worse in the morning after the nightly peak. The timing of vaccinations may even influence their effectiveness, as the immune system is more prepared to mount a response at certain times of the day than at others. In subtle ways, the body's defenses rise and fall with the clock. Let the thought soften at the edges and fade. For life in the ocean, especially in coastal areas, the tides can be a more powerful time giver than the sun. Many marine organisms, such as crabs, oysters, and certain types of algae, have biological clocks that are synchronized with the twice-daily rhythm of the tides, which is about 12.4 hours. These are called circadian rhythms. For a creature living on the shore, knowing when the tide will come in or go out is critical for survival. It determines when they will be submerged, when they can feed, and when they are exposed to predators. This shows how biological clocks are not just tied to the sun, but can adapt to the most important environmental cycle in an organism's life. In a calm rhythm, life follows the pull of the moon. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. The moon also governs some biological rhythms, which are known as circulunar clocks. These clocks are synchronized to the roughly 29.5-day cycle of the moon. One of the most famous examples is the mass spawning of corals in places like the Great Barrier Reef. Once a year, following a full moon, entire colonies of corals release their eggs and sperm into the water simultaneously. This synchronized event is timed by a combination of cues, including water temperature, the daily light cycle, and moonlight. This overwhelming release of reproductive cells maximizes the chances of fertilization. It is a stunning display of a population-wide rhythm tied to the light of the moon. As you rest, larger, slower cycles are unfolding. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. The evolution of circadian clocks is thought to stretch back billions of years. Some of the earliest life forms, like cyanobacteria, developed a simple clock. One of the first major advantages this provided was the ability to time DNA replication for the nighttime. Early Earth had no protective ozone layer, so the sun's ultraviolet radiation was incredibly intense and damaging to DNA. By keeping a clock, these simple organisms could ensure they copied their genetic material during the relative safety of darkness. This fundamental link between the clock and DNA protection is a feature that has been conserved throughout evolution and is still present in your own cells today. Along a steady path, life learned to anticipate and protect itself. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. Shift work poses a significant challenge to the circadian system. When a person works at night and tries to sleep during the day, they are living in direct opposition to their internal clock's programming. The master clock is still receiving light signals during the day, telling it to promote wakefulness, even as the person is trying to sleep. This chronic misalignment can lead to a host of health problems over time. Body is in a constant state of internal confusion, with different systems receiving conflicting timing cues. It highlights how deeply ingrained our need for a regular light-dark cycle is, and how difficult it is to override our ancient biological programming. In the gentle background, the body craves routine. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. Even in a place of constant darkness, like a deep cave, circadian rhythms persist. When volunteers have lived in underground bunkers without any clocks or natural light, their bodies continue to follow a roughly 24-hour cycle of sleep, wakefulness, and hormonal changes. However, without the daily reset from the sun, their internal clocks begin to free run. Typically, their sleep-wake cycle drifts a little later each day. These experiments were crucial in proving that circadian rhythms are truly generated internally and are not just a simple response to the environment. They are a self-sustaining oscillation that is merely anchored or entrained by light. Over time, the internal clock shows its independent nature. Return to the easy rhythm of your breath. Seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, is a condition where people experience symptoms of depression during the shorter days of fall and winter. It is thought to be related to the circadian system. The reduction in daily light exposure during winter can cause a phase shift in a person's circadian rhythm, leading to a mismatch between their sleep-wake cycle and their internal clock. It can also disrupt the balance of neurotransmitters like serotonin. One of the primary treatments for SAD is light therapy, which involves sitting in front of a special bright light box for a period of time each morning. This helps to reset the master clock and restore normal rhythmicity. Elsewhere in this picture, light acts as a quiet medicine. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. The human sense of smell is influenced by our circadian clock. Studies have shown that our sensitivity to certain odors can vary throughout the day. It appears that we may be most sensitive to smells in the evening. There is also a connection between our sense of smell and the regulation of our metabolism. The clock in the olfactory bulb of the brain may help to prepare the digestive system for food after smelling it. This is part of the cephalic phase response, where the body begins to prepare for a meal even before the first bite is taken. It is another subtle layer of timing, linking our senses to our metabolism. With steady breath, you can notice how even scent has a rhythm. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. The amount of time it takes for your internal clock to adjust to a new time zone depends on the direction of travel. It is generally easier to adapt when traveling west than when traveling east. When you travel west, you are lengthening your day. This requires a phase delay of your clock, which is a process the human body finds relatively easy. You just need to stay up a bit later. When you travel east, you are shortening your day. This requires a phase advance, forcing your clock to shift earlier, which is much more difficult. This is why jet lag often feels worse after eastward flights. With the same easy pace, the body prefers to stretch time rather than compress it. Feel the calm gather around you again. The clocks in your muscles help to regulate their metabolism and repair. During periods of activity, the muscle clock promotes the uptake and use of glucose and fatty acids for energy. During periods of rest, such as overnight, it shifts focus to repairing muscle fibers and replenishing energy stores. Interestingly, the timing of exercise can interact with these clocks. Some studies suggest that exercising in the morning can be better for fat metabolism, while exercising in the afternoon may be better for performance and muscle building, aligning with the natural peaks in strength and body temperature. This shows a finely tuned system for managing energy and repair. In this quiet corner, the body knows how to rebuild itself. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. The age of a person can influence their chronotype. Young children tend to be morning larks, waking and sleeping very early. During adolescence, there is a well-documented biological shift that causes a delay in the circadian rhythm. Teenagers naturally feel sleepy later at night and need to sleep later in the morning. This is not a choice, but a hormonal and developmental change. As people move into older adulthood, the clock tends to shift earlier again, a pattern sometimes called an advanced sleep phase. Many older adults find themselves waking very early in the morning and feeling tired earlier in the evening. With unhurried steps, our inner clocks shift across a lifetime. Settle back into the soft pace of night. The discovery of the core clock genes earned 3 American scientists the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2017. Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young used fruit flies to isolate the gene that controls the normal daily biological rhythm. They named this gene period. They went on to show how this gene produces a protein that accumulates in the cell at night and is then degraded during the day. This discovery revealed the fundamental feedback loop mechanism that drives the clock, a principle that was later found to be conserved in humans and most other animals. Their work transformed our understanding of how life keeps time. Up close, a simple fly revealed a universal secret. Feel the simple ease of being here. Photosynthesis in plants is a process that is carefully regulated by a circadian clock. The plant's internal timekeeper helps it to anticipate the sunrise. Before dawn, it begins to produce the necessary proteins and enzymes needed to capture light energy. This allows the plant to start photosynthesizing efficiently as soon as the sun is up. The clock also helps the plant to manage its energy stores. It estimates how much starch it is stored during the day and paces its consumption of that starch throughout the night to ensure it does not run out before morning. It is a remarkable example of internal resource management timed to the day-night cycle. As the night settles, plants are also resting and waiting. Let that idea rest for a moment before we move on. Our desire for different types of food may also have a circadian pattern. Some research suggests that our bodies may crave more carbohydrate-rich foods in the evening. This could be related to the brain's use of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that helps to regulate mood and promote sleep. The building block for serotonin is tryptophan, an amino acid whose entry into the brain is facilitated by eating carbohydrates. The evening craving for carbs might be a subtle, clock-driven mechanism to help prepare the brain for sleep. It's a reminder of the intricate links between our metabolism, our brain chemistry, and our internal sense of time. Without any hurry, the body gently nudges us toward what it needs. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. Even a single pulse of bright light at the wrong time can have a significant effect on your circadian clock. If you are exposed to bright light in the middle of the night, your master clock can interpret it as a signal of daytime. This can cause a phase shift in your rhythm, pushing your entire sleep-wake cycle later. This is why it is so important to keep your sleeping environment as dark as possible. Even small amounts of light from electronics or streetlights can filter through your eyelids and be detected by the SCN. This can suppress melatonin production and disrupt the quality of your sleep. In the gentle background, darkness sends a powerful signal for rest. Let the thought soften at the edges and fade. Many aspects of cardiovascular function are under circadian control. Blood pressure follows a predictable daily rhythm, typically dipping by 10 to 20% during the night. This nocturnal dip is a sign of a healthy and flexible cardiovascular system. Heart rate also slows significantly during sleep. In the morning, both blood pressure and heart rate rise as part of the body's process of waking up. There is also a morning peak in the tendency for blood to clot. This clock-driven coordination is essential for matching cardiovascular function to the body's changing demands for activity and rest. Through a soft lens, we see the heart also follows a daily tide. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. Blind individuals who have no light perception at all often have what is called a free-running circadian rhythm. Because their master clock does not receive the daily resetting cue from light, their internal 24-hour cycle is not anchored to the day. Their sleep-wake cycle gradually drifts out of alignment with the social day, leading to a condition known as non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder. They experience periods of good sleep at night, followed by periods where they feel an overwhelming urge to sleep during the day. This illustrates just how fundamental light is for synchronizing the human clock. On a deeper level, our connection to the sun's cycle is profound. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. Some animals use their circadian clocks to help them navigate. For example, migratory birds that travel long distances use a time-compensated sun compass. They're able to determine direction by looking at the position of the sun in the sky. To do this accurately, they also need to know the time of day because the sun's position changes as the day progresses. Their internal circadian clock provides this crucial piece of information, allowing them to adjust their orientation relative to the sun and stay on the correct course. It is an amazing integration of an internal sense of time and an external sense of direction. Under quiet skies, birds are charting their course by an inner clock. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. The timing of medication can significantly impact its effectiveness and side effects, a field known as chronotherapy. Because processes like metabolism, cell division, and immune response are all rhythmic, A drug's effect can change depending on when it is taken. For example, cholesterol-lowering statin drugs are often recommended to be taken in the evening. This is because the liver's production of cholesterol is highest at night. Taking the medication before this peak allows it to be most effective. Similarly, some chemotherapy drugs are timed to coincide with the lowest point in the division of healthy cells, minimizing side effects. With simple patience, medicine can be aligned with the body's rhythms. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. The process of aging can affect the circadian system. As people get older, the SCN may lose some of its neurons, and the signals it sends to the rest of the body can become weaker. This can result in rhythms that are less robust. For example, the daily fluctuations in body temperature and hormone levels may become flattened. Sleep can become more fragmented, and the natural morning peak of cortisol may be less pronounced. This weakening of the internal clock is a natural part of the aging process, but maintaining strong daily routines, especially with light exposure and meals, can help to support and strengthen circadian function in later life. As the pattern repeats, even aging has its own gentle rhythm. Return to the easy rhythm of your breath. The regulation of body-water balance is also under circadian control. The release of vasopressin, a hormone that helps the kidneys retain water and concentrate urine, peaks during the night. This is why you can normally sleep for many hours without needing to wake up and use the bathroom. The clock essentially tells the kidneys to produce less urine overnight. As the hormone levels fall in the morning, urine production returns to its daytime rate. This is a simple but elegant example of how the circadian system anticipates our behavioral patterns and adjusts our physiology accordingly, all to support a long, uninterrupted period of rest. Elsewhere in this picture, quiet systems are working to ensure your comfort. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. Your hair growth follows a circadian rhythm. The cells in your hair follicles that are responsible for producing the hair shaft have their own internal clocks. Studies have shown that the rate of cell division in these follicles is highest in the very early morning. This means that your hair is technically growing fastest while you are still asleep. While the difference is too small to notice from day to day, it is another example of how deeply the 24-hour cycle is embedded in our biology, influencing even the smallest and most steady processes of growth and renewal. In this way, every part of the body is in tune with the day. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. Hibernation is not just a very long sleep, but an extreme state of energy conservation that is linked to the circadian system. In animals that hibernate, like bears or groundhogs, the circadian clock does not stop, but it continues to run at a much slower pace, influenced by the drastic drop in body temperature. The clock is thought to play a role in timing the arousal from hibernation, ensuring the animal wakes up in the spring when conditions are favorable again. It helps organize the profound metabolic changes needed to enter and exit this state of suspended animation. It is a seasonal rhythm layered on top of the daily one. In quieter hours, the clock can slow almost to a stop. Feel the calm gather around you again. There is a concept known as the master food clock. While the SCN is sensitive to light, some researchers propose that there might be another clock in the brain that is more sensitive to the timing of food. This clock, thought to be located in a different part of the hypothalamus, could help to explain why the timing of meals has such a strong effect on the peripheral clocks in our digestive organs. It may work in parallel with the SCN to create a complete picture of the body's energetic state, integrating signals of both light and food availability to orchestrate metabolism. Through a soft lens, we see layers of control all working together. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. The process of birth itself appears to have a circadian rhythm. In humans, spontaneous labor is most likely to begin late in the evening or during the night, and deliveries most commonly occur in the early morning hours. This pattern is seen across many different cultures and is thought to be an evolutionary adaptation. For our ancestors, giving birth at night, when the social group was at rest and safe in a shelter, would have been advantageous. This ancient rhythm is orchestrated by hormones like oxytocin and melatonin, both of which have levels that peak during the night. With the same easy pace, even life's beginnings are tied to the clock. Settle back into the soft pace of night. Even your sense of pain is modulated by the circadian clock. Pain perception is generally lowest in the afternoon and evening, and highest during the night and early morning. This may be due to daily rhythms in the production of natural pain-relieving substances in the body, as well as rhythms in inflammation. This explains why some people with chronic pain conditions report that their symptoms feel most severe when they are trying to sleep or just after they wake up. The body's sensitivity to discomfort ebbs and flows with the time of day, a quiet tide of sensation. With steady breath, this wave of sensation can be allowed to soften. Feel the simple ease of being here. Our emotional state can also be influenced by circadian rhythms. In general, positive mood tends to peak in the late morning and early afternoon, while negative feelings can become more prominent during the night. For many people, the ability to regulate emotions is at its strongest during the biological day and weakest during the biological night. This might be one reason why worries can feel so much larger and more overwhelming in the middle of the night. The brain's prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for emotional regulation, is less active at that time, and the influence of more primitive emotional centers can be stronger. As you rest, allow those thoughts to drift, knowing the morning brings a different perspective. Let that idea rest for a moment before we move on. Space travel presents a unique challenge for the human circadian system. In low Earth orbit, astronauts aboard the International Space Station experience 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24 hours. This complete removal of a normal light-dark cycle can lead to significant sleep disruption and circadian misalignment. To counteract this, NASA has developed special lighting systems for the space station. These systems can change their color temperature and intensity throughout the day, providing blue-enriched light in the morning to promote alertness, and red-shifted, dimmer light in the evening to help astronauts prepare for sleep, creating an artificial Earth day in space. In this quiet corner of space, a rhythm is carefully maintained. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. The temperature of your bedroom can act as a subtle zeitgeber, helping to support your circadian rhythm. As your body prepares for sleep, its core temperature naturally drops. A cool room can facilitate this process, making it easier to fall asleep. In contrast, a warm room can interfere with the body's ability to cool down, which can delay sleep onset and lead to more fragmented rest. The daily cycle of temperature change, from the coolness of the night to the warmth of the day, is a primitive and powerful cue that our bodies have been attuned to for millennia. A slightly cool room is a gentle signal to the body that it is time to rest. As the pattern repeats, small changes can make a great difference. Let the thoughts soften at the edges and fade. Bees use their internal clocks for a behavior known as time memory. They can learn and remember the specific times of day when particular species of flowers are producing the most nectar. A bee might visit a patch of clover in the morning and then return to a patch of lavender in the afternoon, timing its visits to coincide with peak nectar flow. This remarkable ability is governed by their circadian clock. It allows them to forage for food with incredible efficiency, saving energy by not visiting flowers when they have little to offer. It is a tiny, buzzing appointment book, kept perfectly by an internal clock. Along a steady path, nature finds the most efficient route. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. The gut microbiome, the vast community of bacteria living in your intestines, also has a circadian rhythm. The composition and activity of these microbes can fluctuate throughout the day. Some of these rhythms are driven by the microbes themselves, while others are a response to the host's own clock, particularly the timing of meals. In turn, the rhythmic activity of the gut microbiome can influence the host's metabolism and immune function. Disruption of the host's circadian rhythm, such as through jet lag or shift work, can also disrupt the rhythms of the gut bacteria, creating a cascade of effects on health. It is a complex ecosystem, all pulsing on a shared schedule. As you rest, this inner world is also in a state of quiet. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. The cells in our lungs and airways have their own circadian clocks. These clocks help to regulate lung function, inflammation, and the response to challenges like allergens or viruses. For example, airway resistance is often highest in the early morning hours. This is why symptoms of asthma can be particularly severe at night or upon waking. The timing of the body's inflammatory response, which is higher at night, also contributes to this pattern. This rhythmic nature of lung function suggests that the timing of respiratory treatments could be optimized to be more effective. Beneath the surface, even each breath has a subtle daily rhythm. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. The phenomenon of sleep inertia describes the feeling of grogginess, disorientation, and reduced cognitive performance that you can experience just after waking up. This feeling can last from a few minutes to over an hour. It is a normal part of the waking process. The brain does not just switch instantly from a sleep state to a fully awake state. It is a gradual transition, during which some parts of the brain may still be in a sleep-like mode. The intensity of sleep inertia can be worse if you are woken up abruptly from a deep stage of sleep, or if your circadian rhythm is misaligned. With unhurried steps, the mind begins to greet the day. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. Many animal species communicate using signals that are timed by a circadian clock. For example, the chirping of crickets is a classic sound of the evening. The male cricket's song, used to attract a mate, is controlled by a strong internal rhythm that ensures he sings at the correct time of day. Similarly, the flashing patterns of fireflies are a beautiful form of nocturnal communication, timed to perfection by their biological clocks. Even the dawn chorus of birds, a wave of song that spreads across the landscape as the sun rises, is a population-level symphony conducted by thousands of individual circadian clocks. In the gentle background, the world is full of timed conversations. Return to the easy rhythm of your breath. The free-running period of the human circadian clock, the natural cycle length without external cues, can vary from person to person. While the average is around 24.2 hours, it is influenced by genetics. People with a naturally shorter free-running period may be more likely to be morning larks, while those with a longer period are more often night owls. The strength of the clock's synchronization to light can also vary. Some people's clocks are a bit more stubborn and less easily shifted by light, while others are more flexible. These individual differences help to explain the wide range of sleep patterns seen in the human population. Without any hurry, each person finds their unique tempo. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. The bone marrow, where new blood cells are produced, has its own circadian rhythm. The release of hematopoietic stem cells from the bone marrow into the bloodstream is not constant, but peaks at a certain time of day. In mice, this peak occurs during the day when they are resting. In humans, it is thought to occur during the night. This rhythmic release is important for the normal maintenance of the blood and immune systems. Understanding this timing could have implications for procedures like bone marrow transplants, suggesting that the time of day when cells are harvested or transplanted could influence the outcome. On a deeper level, the very creation of our blood is tied to the clock. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. While light is the main Zeitgeber, non-photic or non-light, cues can also shift the clock. A well-timed bout of exercise is one such cue. Exercising in the morning or early afternoon tends to cause a phase advance, shifting rhythms earlier. Conversely, exercising in the evening may cause a small phase delay. The effects are generally more modest than those of light, but they can still be a useful tool for adjusting the clock. For someone experiencing jet lag or a shift worker trying to adapt, incorporating exercise at the right time of day can help to speed up the process of resynchronization. It is another way to gently communicate with your internal clock. In subtle ways, movement can help to set our inner time. Feel the calm gather around you again. Torpor is a state of decreased physiological activity in an animal, usually characterized by a reduced body temperature and metabolic rate. It is a way to conserve energy. Some small animals, like hummingbirds and mice, can enter a state of daily torpor. Their circadian clock times this entry into a low-energy state for a specific part of the day, often during the cold night or the time when food is scarce. It is like a mini hibernation that lasts for only a few hours. When the time comes to be active again, the clock signals the body to warm up and return to its normal metabolic state. As the pattern repeats, it offers a strategy for survival. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. The genes that make up our molecular clock are ancient. Homologous or similar clock genes can be found in a vast range of species, from flies to humans. This suggests that the fundamental mechanism of the clock evolved a very long time ago and has been conserved for hundreds of millions of years. While the specific behaviors that the clock controls can be very different, like wakefulness in a diurnal human and wakefulness in a nocturnal mouse, the core timekeeping machinery within the cells is remarkably alike. It is a shared inheritance, a piece of deep time that we all carry within us. Elsewhere in this picture, a common thread connects all life. Settle back into the soft pace of night. Even after a meal has been fully digested, the peripheral clocks in the gut continue to work. At night, during the long fasting period, the gut clock shifts the focus to a program of repair and housekeeping. This process, called the intestinal migrating motor complex, consists of waves of muscle contractions that sweep through the stomach and intestines. This action helps to clear out any remaining debris, mucus, and bacteria, essentially cleaning the digestive tract in preparation for the next day's meals. It is a vital maintenance process that is timed to occur during the quiet hours of rest, showing how the gut is never truly still. In this quiet corner, the body is always preparing and renewing. Feel the simple ease of being here. The placebo effect itself might have a circadian rhythm. One study on pain relief found that the effectiveness of a placebo, a treatment with no active substance, was greater when administered in the morning compared to the afternoon. This could be because the body's natural pain relief systems, which a placebo can help to activate, are more robust or receptive at certain times of the day. It suggests that our expectations and beliefs may interact with our physiology in a way that is time-dependent. It is a fascinating intersection of psychology and chronobiology. Through a soft lens, the mind and body are deeply intertwined. Let that idea rest for a moment before we move on. In the Arctic and Antarctic, the extreme seasonal changes in light present a unique challenge to circadian rhythms. During the polar summer, there is constant daylight for months. And during the winter, there is constant darkness. Animals and people living in these regions must rely on weaker zeitgebers, like social schedules or subtle changes in the color of the light, to stay synchronized. Even so, many people living in polar regions report that their sleep patterns become less consolidated and their rhythms can drift. It shows how profoundly dependent we are on the daily cycle of night and day that most of us take for granted. Under quiet skies, our bodies long for the familiar rhythm of sun and shadow. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. The clock can influence how the body responds to toxins and drugs. The liver is the primary organ for detoxification, and the enzymes responsible for breaking down foreign substances are controlled by the liver's circadian clock. The activity of these enzymes can vary significantly throughout the day. This field, known as chronotoxicology, studies how the toxicity of a substance can change depending on the time of exposure. A dose of a chemical that might be relatively harmless when encountered in the morning could be much more damaging if encountered at night when the liver's detoxification systems are less active. With simple patience, the liver works to protect the body on a schedule. Let the thoughts soften at the edges and fade. Creativity may also have a circadian rhythm, but the pattern can be complex. For tasks that require linear, analytical thinking, performance is often best at your personal circadian peak of alertness. However, for tasks that require more divergent, innovative thinking, some research suggests that performance can be better during your off-peak times. For a morning person, this might be in the evening. The theory is that when you are slightly tired and less focused, your brain is less inhibited. This may allow for more novel connections and creative insights to emerge. It is a reminder that different mental states can be useful for different kinds of thinking. In the gentle background, the mind can wander in creative ways. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. The cycle of sleep and wakefulness is the most obvious circadian rhythm, but it is actually an output of the clock, not the clock itself. The SCN will continue to cycle with a roughly 24-hour period, even if a person is forced to stay awake for a day or two. The drive for sleep, however, builds up the longer you are awake. This is a separate process known as sleep homeostasis. The final timing of sleep is an interaction between this homeostatic sleep pressure and the circadian signal for alertness. When sleep pressure is high and the circadian drive for wakefulness is low, sleep becomes nearly irresistible. As you rest, both of these systems are working to ensure you get the rest you need. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. The intensity of morning sunlight is a key factor in keeping your clock well-timed. Exposure to bright light, especially within the first hour of waking, sends a strong good morning signal to the SCN. This helps to anchor the start of your day and ensures that melatonin production will begin at the appropriate time later that evening. Even just 10 to 15 minutes of outdoor morning light can be very effective. This is because natural daylight, even on a cloudy day, is many times brighter than typical indoor lighting. It is a simple and powerful way to reinforce a healthy circadian rhythm. With the same easy pace, the body attunes to the morning. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. Our desire to be social and engage with others can also fluctuate across the day. For many people, the drive for social interaction tends to align with the peaks in alertness and positive mood, often in the late morning and early evening. The circadian system helps to prepare the body for these interactions by modulating a wide range of functions, from our energy levels to our ability to interpret subtle social cues. At night, as the body prepares for sleep, this drive for outward engagement naturally subsides, turning our focus inward toward rest and recovery. Over time, this rhythm of social engagement and quiet solitude is a natural part of our daily lives. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. Some of the earliest clocks on Earth did not tell time with genes and proteins, but with chemical reactions. In cyanobacteria, one of the oldest forms of life, the clock is composed of just 3 proteins that work together. One protein adds a phosphate group to another, and the third protein removes it. This cycle of adding and removing phosphates happens over and over, taking about 24 hours. It is an incredibly simple and robust biochemical oscillator that functions almost like a tiny protein-based grandfather clock. It is a beautiful example of how nature can create precise timing from the simplest of components. On a deeper level, timekeeping is a fundamental property of biology. Return to the easy rhythm of your breath. The growth plates in the bones of children, which are responsible for long bone growth, are under circadian control. The process of cell proliferation and bone formation in these plates is not constant, but peaks during the night. This is consistent with the general principle that many growth and repair processes are scheduled by the clock to occur during the resting phase. It gives a new, literal meaning to the idea that children do their growing while they are asleep. The same hormones that regulate sleep and energy also help to orchestrate this nightly construction project. In this quiet corner, the body is busy building itself. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. The circadian clock can influence learning and memory consolidation. The process of forming new memories often happens during the day when we are awake and experiencing things. However, the process of consolidating those memories, making them stable and long-lasting, largely happens during sleep. Deep sleep and REM sleep both play critical roles. The circadian clock helps to ensure that we get the right amount and structure of sleep needed for this to happen effectively. A well-timed sleep schedule is therefore not just about feeling rested, but also about allowing the brain to properly process and store the day's events. As you rest, your mind is quietly organizing itself. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. The color of light can have different effects on the circadian clock. The EPRGCs in our eyes, which signal the SCN, are most sensitive to blue and green light. They are less sensitive to light with longer wavelengths, such as yellow, orange, and red light. This is why using dim, warm-colored lighting in the evening can help to minimize the disruptive effect of light on melatonin production. It sends a weaker alerting signal to the brain compared to the cool, blue-rich light from screens or standard fluorescent bulbs. This allows the body's natural sleep-promoting processes to unfold without interference. Light can be a gentle guide into the evening. Feel the calm gather around you again. In the natural world, camping can be a powerful way to reset the circadian clock. A study found that when people went camping for a weekend without any artificial lights or electronics, their internal clocks quickly synchronized with the natural light-dark cycle. Their melatonin levels began to rise at sunset and fall at sunrise, and they shifted their sleep times to be earlier. This happened after just 2 days. It shows how responsive our clocks are to our light environment and suggests that our modern, electrically lit world has pushed our rhythms significantly later than they would be in a natural setting. With steady breath, you can imagine the simplicity of that natural rhythm. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. The blood-brain barrier is a protective layer of cells that carefully controls what substances can pass from the bloodstream into the brain. The permeability of this barrier is not constant, but is regulated by a circadian clock. It appears to be more permeable at certain times of day than others. This has important implications for treating brain diseases, as it suggests that the timing of drug delivery could be optimized to ensure that medications can reach their target in the brain more effectively. It is another layer of timed biology, a gatekeeper that opens and closes on a daily schedule. Without any hurry, we can appreciate this protective rhythm. Settle back into the soft pace of night. Fetal development is influenced by the mother's circadian rhythm. The fetus does not have its own self-sustaining clock for much of gestation. Instead, it receives timing information from the mother through the placenta. Hormones like melatonin from the mother cross the placenta and entrain the developing fetal clock. This helps to establish circadian rhythms in the fetus even before birth. It is thought that a stable and robust circadian rhythm in the mother during pregnancy is important for the healthy development of the baby's own timekeeping systems. In this way, the mother's rhythm provides the first temporal map for her child. In subtle ways, one rhythm teaches another. Feel the simple ease of being here. The timing of an allergic reaction can be influenced by the circadian clock. The immune cells responsible for allergic responses, such as mast cells, have their own internal clocks. The release of histamine and other inflammatory substances from these cells is often higher at night. This may explain why symptoms of conditions like eczema or allergic rhinitis can worsen during the evening or overnight. The body's sensitivity to allergens is not static, but ebbs and flows with the time of day. Guided by the quiet ticking of the immune system's many clocks. Along a steady path, even our sensitivities follow a schedule. Let that idea rest for a moment before we move on. The discovery of clock genes in cyanobacteria was a major breakthrough. These simple, single-celled organisms have a clock made of just 3 proteins, Chi-A, Chi-B, and Chi-C. In a test tube, these 3 proteins can be mixed together with a source of energy, and they will spontaneously begin to oscillate on a 24-hour cycle. This proved that a circadian clock could function entirely at the protein level, without the need for the transcription and translation of genes. It is a post-translational clock, a marvel of biochemical engineering, and one of the simplest and most elegant timekeepers known in nature. Up close, incredible complexity can arise from simple parts. Nothing urgent here, only a slow and steady pattern. Resynchronizing to a new time zone after jet lag can be aided by the careful timing of meals. Just as light resets the master clock in the brain, the timing of food intake is a powerful zeitgeber for the peripheral clocks in organs like the liver and gut. By adopting the meal schedule of the new time zone as quickly as possible, you can help these peripheral clocks to adjust more rapidly. This can reduce the feeling of internal desynchrony, where your brain is on one schedule and your digestive system is on another. It is a complementary strategy to using light to anchor your new routine. As the pattern repeats, body and mind begin to align. Let the thoughts soften at the edges and fade. The strength of your willpower and self-control may also have a daily rhythm. For most people, the ability to resist impulses and make considered decisions is strongest in the morning, when the brain's prefrontal cortex is well rested and fully engaged. As the day goes on, this mental resource can become depleted, a phenomenon sometimes called ego depletion. This might make it harder to stick to a diet, avoid procrastination, or manage your emotions in the evening. This pattern aligns with the circadian rhythm of alertness, which naturally declines as the day progresses. The body knows when to be vigilant and when to let go. Let the body grow heavier as the mind stays simple. The world of chronobiology is still relatively young, and new discoveries are constantly being made. Scientists are exploring how circadian rhythms are connected to nearly every aspect of health and disease. This research is leading to new ideas for treatments, from developing drugs that can repair a broken clock, to designing hospital rooms with lighting that supports patient recovery. The goal is to move toward a model of circadian medicine, where an understanding of the body's timing is integrated into all aspects of healthcare. It is a field full of quiet potential, promising a future where we live more in harmony with our own deep rhythms. Through a soft lens, a new understanding of health is emerging. You can breathe a little deeper and allow the thought to drift. When you are sleep deprived, your brain's perception of time can become distorted. You may overestimate how much time has passed, or you may find it difficult to track the duration of events. This is because the brain networks that are involved in time perception are also affected by fatigue and circadian misalignment. Time itself can feel like it is slowing down or speeding up. This is another reminder of how deeply our subjective experience is tied to our underlying biology. Our sense of the world, including the very flow of time, is shaped by the health of our internal clock. In the gentle background, a steady clock provides a steady mind. Rest in the steady comfort of this moment. The kidneys have their own clock that regulates filtration and electrolyte balance. The rate at which the kidneys filter blood, known as the glomerular filtration rate, is not constant. It is typically higher during the active phase of the day and lower during the rest phase at night. This clock also controls the excretion of important electrolytes like sodium and potassium. This careful timing helps the body to maintain stable internal conditions while adapting to the daily cycles of eating, drinking, and activity. It is another example of a silent, vital rhythm working to keep the body in balance. With the same easy pace, the body maintains its equilibrium. Let that settle like dust on a quiet floor. The human voice has a circadian rhythm. The vocal cords, like other tissues, are subject to daily changes in hydration and inflammation. For many people, the voice is at its lowest pitch and may sound more rough just after waking up. It tends to reach its optimal performance later in the day, as the vocal cords become more flexible and the body's systems are fully active. Professional singers and speakers are often aware of this, scheduling their performances or recording sessions for the time of day when their voice feels most reliable. It is a subtle rhythm, the sound of the clock in our own expression. On a deeper level, everything has its season. Return to the easy rhythm of your breath. The concept of a chronotype can be useful, but it is also a spectrum. While some people are extreme morning larks or night owls, the majority of the population falls somewhere in the middle. Your chronotype is not a fixed identity, but a tendency that can also be influenced by age and lifestyle. It is a gentle reminder that while these biological rhythms are powerful, there is also flexibility. The goal is not to fit into a perfect category, but to find a daily routine that feels sustainable and supportive for your own unique biology. With unhurried steps, we can each find our own comfortable pace. Set the idea down and feel the weight release. Even in the womb, the developing brain shows rhythmic activity. By the third trimester, a fetus exhibits distinct cycles of activity and rest that resemble early sleep states. These rhythms are coordinated by timing signals from the mother's body, which are transmitted through the placenta. This early entrainment helps to lay the groundwork for the newborn's own circadian system. After birth, it takes several months for an infant's clock to fully mature and synchronize with the external light-dark cycle. This is why the sleep patterns of newborns are so fragmented and unpredictable in the beginning. With simple patience, the clock learns to follow the sun. Allow the mind to idle in gentle space. The study of how our genes and our environment interact to shape our chronotype is a growing area of research. Your genetic makeup may give you a predisposition to be a morning person or an evening person. However, your daily behaviors, especially your patterns of light exposure, can modify how that genetic tendency is expressed. Someone who is a genetic night owl but who consistently gets bright morning light and avoids evening light may be able to live comfortably on a more conventional schedule. It is a continuous dialogue between our inherited nature and our daily choices. Elsewhere in this picture, we find a balance between what is given and what is chosen. Feel the calm gather around you again. Ultimately, the circadian rhythm is a profound expression of our connection to the planet. It is a biological echo of the Earth's daily rotation. This internal pulse, honed over billions of years of evolution, ties every cell in your body to the rising and setting of the sun. It is a constant, quiet presence, a source of stability and order in a complex world. By living in harmony with this rhythm, by honoring its need for light and darkness, activity and rest, we are honoring a fundamental part of our own nature. As you settle into sleep, you are answering the call of this ancient, gentle rhythm. In this quiet corner, you are perfectly in sync with the night. Hold only the calm and let the rest drift. And so our journey through the quiet world of circadian rhythms comes to a close. We have drifted from the master clock in the brain to the timekeepers in every organ, from the hormones that signal night and day to the ancient genes that tick within each cell. But you do not need to remember any of this. The important thing is that your body already knows. It knows the rhythm of rest. It understands the signal of darkness. It feels the gentle pull towards sleep. As you lie here now, you are participating in one of the most ancient and peaceful patterns in the universe. You're aligning with the quiet of the night, just as life on this planet has done for eons. There is nothing more to do but to trust this process. To let go and allow the steady rhythm of the darkness to carry you into a deep and restorative sleep. Good night.